What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team Career Mode. We're here for round 8 of Season 4 of our Jaguar Racing career, and we are going to be in Spain. I incorrectly in the previous video said that this was going to be the Canadian Grand Prix, and I have proven to be wrong. I forgot that, of course, the Spanish Grand Prix comes in between the Monaco Grand Prix and the Canadian Grand Prix. So anyway, last time out, as I just said, we were in Monaco and we had a pretty decent race. We went from P7 to P4. I can't help but feel like we should have perhaps had a slightly better qualifying to work our way up the order a bit more possibly. We could have maybe had a podium finish if we'd qualified slightly better. But P4, it's our second best result of the season so far after our win in Bahrain, of course. And well, I'm hoping that we can finally return to the podium and maybe to the top step of the podium here in Spain. It's been, what, 6 races in a row without them now, and I am remembering to do this, which I meant to do in the previous race, but it completely slipped my mind. There we go. We are now on 98 difficulty because we lost the rivalry to George Russell. Mostly, I would say, probably due to the failure that we suffered in Australia. Maybe if we hadn't had that, perhaps we would have won it, but you know, we can speculate forever if we want to. It probably won't change much, you would have to say. So yeah, Spanish Grand Prix, like I said, target here. Going to be a podium finish, I think, quite comfortably, I would say. That needs to be the minimum. This is a track I do quite like, as I remarked in a few videos ago, I think. I said I like tracks with lots of high-speed corners, and this is a track that is basically all high-speed corners, or at least all high and medium-speed corners. Since they got rid of that chicane, there's very few sort of low-speed corners on this circuit now. Quite a lot of high-speed ones, and yeah, it just suits my driving style very, very nicely. Also, the hairpin, of course, they reprofiled completely. It's a lot wider now, and just generally a lot more sort of fun to drive around this circuit. So I am hoping that we will be able to take advantage of all the changes that have happened to this circuit in order to get a good result here. But we will see what we can do. Starting to get into qualifying now, of course, and I would say the target has to be minimum sort of, you know, top 5 if we want any kind of chance of getting into a podium position in the race. I think we've got to qualify at least 5th or higher. As always, I think it will be a slightly defensive affair until we can get to a point where we feel a bit more comfortable starting to pull away from the cars in these races. I think most of these races we're just going to be defending generally. But yeah, the first flying lap that we did on a fresh set of soft compound tyres here in Q1, it was a 109.9, so we're already dipping into the 109s, and maybe we'll be in the 108s by the end of the weekend. Who knows? But as I went to start my second flying lap on a used set, or on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, I should say, we actually had a DRS failure, which meant that by the time I got to turn 1, I was almost 3/10 down on my previous lap. So I kind of just looked at that and I went, nah, there's no point continuing that. And so that was the only run we ended up doing in Q1. It was good enough for P3, nonetheless, less than a 10th off of Albon, who was P1 there. Magnussen through in P11, and the eliminations here, again, no real surprises. Hulkenberg, Lawson, Fittipaldi, Joe, De Vries and Stroll. Sonoda doing well to get 15th there, even ahead of both Hasses, when I believe the Hasses are slightly faster than the Alfa Romeo. I've still got my eye on him, and you know, I think now that we've got the facilities he was asking for in the previous season's contract renewal period, maybe he'll be more receptive to joining us at the end of this year. Who knows? But yeah, for now we're going to focus on Spain's qualifying, and we are going to be on a used set of soft compound tyres, doing a 110.0. Not a bad lap by any stretch of the imagination. That was the set of tyres we were going to use at the end of Q1, so I guess they were like a semi-used set, but nonetheless we were still able to find a massive chunk of improvement. 2 purple sectors to kick off sector 1, or to kick off our second lap, I should say. And as we get into sector 3, can we make it 3 purple sectors? Albon's just gone fastest with a 109.7. I think we're about to absolutely smash through that. 8.5 improvement. It is another purple sector. It's good enough for a 109.1, and you bet that is the fastest lap of the session by a country mile as well, I'm pretty sure. If I can repeat that kind of performance in Q3, I think that we will be comfortably on pole. 5/10 faster than Alex Albon there. Very strong run. Magnussen does get through in P10. Solid performance from him. And then Gasly, Russell, Norris, Sargent, Ocon and Tsunoda are eliminated. So Russell and Norris out there in Q2. Very disappointing for both of them, especially our championship leader, Lando Norris, after winning the race in Imola and getting a P2 in Monaco. He took the lead of the championship. But, well, he's going to have a hard time holding on to that if he's starting 13th here in Spain. But we'll see what he can do in the race. Maybe he can at least work his way back to salvage some points. For now, we are going to be doing what we can to get a good time here in Q3. Leclerc's done a 109.3, so I actually will need to do a decent time on my my final flying lap. But we've done a pretty decent time for now. 109.8. Hopefully that'll be alright, but some people are starting to beat us, to be fair, so I think we're going to have a pretty good run through this final sector. Leclerc's done a 109.0, so actually it might not be pole here. Hopefully it will at least still be sort of, you know, top 5-ish thereabouts. We'll see what we're capable of doing as we round the final few corners. We are going to come up to the line. It is a 109.2, not quite as good, but still pretty good, and it's good enough for 7th. What? How? 109.2 and it's only 7th place. Unbelievable.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Leclerc, Perez and Théo Pourchaire. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Well, that's a bit disappointing to see. 2/10 separate the top 7 cars there, and I am right on the bottom end of that, unfortunately. Piastri, Albon, Sainz, Pourchaire, Perez, and Leclerc all going faster than me. Unbelievable scenes. Extremely disappointing to see that happening here, and yeah, I can't quite believe what's happened. I thought I was a surefire pole contender, or at least going to be getting sort of top 3 thereabouts. I definitely didn't see myself going down all the way into 7th. I'm almost in disbelief at that, to be perfectly honest with you. But, well, maybe we're about to throw away another opportunity at a podium and maybe even a win off the back of another poor qualifying. For someone who's supposed to be a qualifying specialist, this season has really not gone the way I was expecting it to go. We've yet to have a pole position in 8 races, and this is not one of those races where we've managed to achieve it once again. So we'll see what we can do as we get into the Spanish Grand Prix.
Max Verstappen's first win for Red Bull on debut here. One of the great dramatic days in Formula One after the clash on the first lap of Hamilton and Rosberg. The entire crowd at turn 7 on their feet, cheering. An extraordinary race. It's always a treat to come back here for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's a sellout crowd of 140,000 here today as we await lights out for the long run down into turn 1. This is a 2.9-mile racetrack. Overtaking is challenging here, to put it mildly. There are 16 corners, but there's still a lot of drama and excitement to be found out there on track. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Théo Pourchaire, Sainz, Albon, Oscar Piastri, Robinson, Verstappen, Hauger, Magnussen, Gasly, Russell, Norris, Sargent, Ocon, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Liam Lawson, Joe, De Vries, Stroll, and Enzo Fittipaldi. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. It's just about time to go to the track for the beginning of the race, but before we do, Natalie Pinkham, what types of strategy do you think we can expect going into today's race?
Clearly, every car can't be as competitive as the next. Some are going to have a clear advantage over the opposition. So it's those teams that can think outside the box in terms of strategy that will come out on top today. I hope they do.
Okay, we've got that relief of having points on the board finally, so let's keep that form up and get another top 10 finish today, please.
Well, I was hoping for a podium here, but I think it's probably quite unlikely now, I've got to be honest with you. You know, I reckon we can make up a couple positions here off the start, you know, maybe get ourselves top 5, something like that, but I can't see I can't see a world in which we get the level of performance that I'm hoping for. You know, I'm still not in a position where I'm really capable of racing with these guys like I want to be. You know, I feel very uncomfortable in this car as well, which has not helped at all. I don't know if it's the engine swap or what the deal is, but yeah, I think wherever I end up on lap 1, I won't end any higher than that. But yeah, we will see. I guess, you know, there's always the opportunity for some chaos, red flag at a good time, something like that. So we'll see what we can do as the lights come on. And the lights go out. And we've had a very good getaway compared to the two McLarens there. We've already threaded the needle between them. We're going faster than all of these guys as well. I think somebody had a poor start there. Not quite sure who, but it created a kind of bottleneck effect. Leclerc and Perez defending to the inside. We're going to try and sweep round the outside of Leclerc. He's fighting us back through the first couple of corners. But we have moved into the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix. Well, that was something I did not see coming whatsoever, quite frankly. Leclerc is going to fight us back a little bit into turn 4. But we have managed to keep him behind, and somehow I've gone from P7 to P1 on the opening lap here in Spain. So I guess my prediction was right. I am not going to finish any higher than wherever I end up at the end of lap 1. Although, that said, it's not over yet, so I guess he could get back past me. But, well, certainly I have made it up into first place, and yeah, I can't quite believe my luck. To say that I would be leading the Spanish Grand Prix as Leclerc attacks me again into the hairpin. I think we're just about going to be able to fight him back here. We're going to be wheel to wheel. I'm going to have the inside line for the following corner. That is us just about clinging on there. I don't know if we're going to be able to cling on for the whole race necessarily, but it certainly is nice to be leading a Grand Prix once again. You know, I've been going for many sort of radical undercut strategies and that kind of thing, so generally I don't get much time at the front of the field. It's nice to be back on top here, and hopefully we will be able to maybe hold on to at least a podium position off the back of this. I certainly wasn't feeling like I was in podium contention after we qualified as far down the order as we did. But here comes Charles Leclerc. He's going to be going for a move. We tried to push him to the outside so we can fire back. Push him to the inside so we can fire off back around the outside. I think we almost went 3 wide there with Perez as well. I didn't get any damage, fortunately. But yeah, very, very crazy. And then by the time we get to the end of lap 5, here comes Charles Leclerc. I think he's going to go for the move. He's going to go to the inside, and then by the time that he gets to the corner, he is a long way ahead of me. So it didn't last long, only 5 laps leading the Spanish Grand Prix, but we'll see if we can stay with Leclerc and see if he can pull us away from Perez. I definitely didn't seem to have absolutely no performance in the car, and actually by the time we got to the end of the lap, I was still within Leclerc's DRS range. This is going to do well for us, staying ahead of Sergio Perez. Leclerc defends to the inside. We're going to see if we can go round the outside, and we pull off the move. We make the move up into P1 once again here in Spain. So I am leading the Grand Prix again. Maybe this time we can hold on to it a little bit more permanently. This time we are going to be potentially battling with both Leclerc and Perez. They've both got the DRS. They're going to go to the inside of the corner. I'm going to try and go around the outside of them. I have to go very wide around the outside in order to not make contact with either of them. I think we may have had some minor contact there with Leclerc, not sure. He's fallen back behind Perez now, so Perez has moved into P2 here. And, well, Leclerc actually ended up losing out to Piastri as well. I don't really have too much more battles up until lap 12. When Sergio Perez eventually does make his way past me, and he is now up into first position, and we are down into P2. So yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to fight with him quite as much now. We don't really have the tyre performance to be able to stay with him quite as much as we did when we were able to stay with Leclerc. We did manage to stay in his DRS range for at least a lap or so, but unfortunately my performance through these corners is just really poor. You know, the braking performance and just the general sort of tyre performance not great. Piastri actually attacking us there in a bit of a strange position. You don't see many overtakes happen there, and indeed you didn't see one happen here because Piastri couldn't quite pull it off. But this has certainly told me that the tyres are starting to wear out a little bit if I'm struggling this much on lap 13. So I'm going to be going for a 3-lap undercut, maybe a 4-lap undercut on some of these guys. The box lap is around 16, 17, I would say. And we will hopefully be comfortably ahead of Sergio Perez by the time that the pit stop phase has happened. But we will see whether that rings true or not. as we make our way into the pit lane now, and we are going to be switching on to the hard compound tyres for the rest of the race. We'll see how my hard compound tyres fare. We're actually coming in earlier than people who started on the soft compound tyres here. So, yeah, I don't know what to interpret from this other than maybe this is a tiny bit premature. I don't know. In any case, maybe this will work out beautifully for us, but unfortunately, once again, I think what we've done is we've ended up boxing ourselves into traffic here. I think maybe if we'd have gone one lap later, it might not have happened, but yeah, we're only 2 seconds down on Tsunoda and Lawson here, so I'd say the chances of me catching up to this train are pretty high. And yeah, we will see whether that happens by the end of the lap or not. I think some of these guys will probably end up boxing. Obviously, all of them can't because there's 2 Alfa Romeos and 2 Hasses in this train I'm catching. But hopefully at least a few of them will box at the end of this lap. We will see who's coming in, who's staying out. One of the Hasses is in. I think Joe there is in, and also Lawson. Tsunoda stayed out. We should be able to get him pretty trivially with the DRS and the battery. And we are just burning all of our battery to make sure that we can clear Tsunoda by the time we get to turn 1. And yeah, Norris has pit. I don't know where he was running before the pit stops, but he's come out in 15th now. He's on the mediums. He's one of the, I think he was maybe the highest soft compound runner. Either him or Russell probably, because I think those guys both started on softs because they were starting outside the top 10. We do a purple sector 1 as is to be expected with the performance we're showing, and now we're going to try and clear Logan Sargent as quickly as we possibly can. It's a bit of an unorthodox overtake in a bit of a strange position, but I just wanted to get back past him as quickly as I could. I knew I had the tyre performance over him. He's on nearly 15 lap old softs, and I'm on pretty fresh hard compound tyres, so yeah, that was a fairly trivial affair. Perez now has come into the pits, so hopefully we should be able to see that we are going to be coming out ahead of him quite comfortably, along with Piastri as well, and indeed, there we go, you can see that I am not only ahead of Piastri, but also Norris is ahead of both Perez and Piastri as well. So yeah, the gap seems to be, it's still not telling me, the gap is over 5 seconds. Okay, well that is very nice. Unfortunately, I actually think that the person who we might have to worry about now more than Sergio Perez is going to be Lando Norris. Because he seems to have pulled an absolute strategic masterclass here, starting on the softs, pitting a few laps early, getting himself out into clear air, and yeah, he is going to be just 2.5 seconds down on me now on those medium compound tyres, starting 13th on the grid. Lando Norris, of course, he has had an amazing rise up the order, which mostly I think is down to the strategy. So yeah, remarkable. By the time we get to lap 22, Norris is in my DRS range, and I don't think there's going to be much keeping him at bay. You know, he's in a Mercedes. We've got a Mercedes engine as well. We're going to be trying to hold him off, and we squeeze him to the inside of the corner, which is going to hold him up at least temporarily. But I don't think it's going to hold him up forever. So yeah, we're going to be possibly losing the lead to Lando Norris here, and what I thought was the strategy that was going to put us onto victory was actually the strategy that was going to put Lando Norris onto victory, maybe. You know, we basically did the same strategy. He pitted 1 lap later than I did, and he was on faster tyres. Maybe I should have started on the softs as well, who knows. Either way, it seems that Lando Norris has made his way through into P1, and I don't know if we're going to be seeing him again in this race, unfortunately. As we make our way onto lap 28 now, he is broken away quite significantly, and Sergio Perez is looking to try and do the same thing. I try and push him to the inside of the corner, but we're a bit late on it. We brake quite late into turn 1, and that is him gone, and now we're going to have to worry about Teo Pourchaire behind us as well if we want to hold on to this podium position. I don't want to give away a podium for absolutely anything. I didn't want to give away the win if I absolutely didn't have to, but unfortunately, you know, things just didn't work out in my favour. I was perhaps a bit slow to react in a couple of occasions, and that has made all the difference. We do successfully push Pourchaire to the inside of the corner, and that allows us to sweep back round the outside of him on lap 30, but we still got a few more laps left to go here in Spain, and I don't think that this podium is guaranteed at the moment as we make our way onto lap 32 now. We've just got a couple laps left to defend from the likes of Piastri, from the likes of Pourchaire. Piastri has made his way up into P4, now into P3, but I think we're just about going to be able to hold on round the outside once again. We've pulled that move so many times here, and people still keep falling for it, which is very, very good for us. But yeah, holding on to P3 for the time being, but I think possibly P2 might be about to become ours, because Sergio Perez is retiring on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. He becomes the first retirement of the race, and most likely the only, you would have to say, if that's happening this late into the Grand Prix. And well, that's very lucky for us, because that does mean that we inherit the position, which means even if we do get overtaken now, we are still going to be coming home on a podium position. But yeah, very, very surprising stuff there. I would have thought, you know, they would have tried everything they could, especially with Sergio Perez being as high up as he is in the championship, and with Norris being one of his championship rivals as well. I'm a little bit shocked that Sergio Perez has retired from this Grand Prix. But either way, we are going to be rounding the last couple of corners now onto the final lap of the Grand Prix it will be. And we've gone very wide on the exit of that corner, which means that I wouldn't be surprised now if we're coming under a lot of pressure here from Oscar Piastri, and I think he might actually get us for P3 here. He's a full car length ahead. He's moving back to the outside. We're going to dive up the inside then, and somehow we managed to get back past him. I was a bit worried we were going to lose out to both Pourchaire and Piastri. Instead, it's Piastri who loses out to Pourchaire and me. We're in P2. Pourchaire is putting some pressure on us into turn 4 as we make our way onto the second sector of the final lap now, and I do just about manage to hold him up. But nonetheless, Théo Pourchaire could still get back past us before the end of this Grand Prix. And yeah, we're just going to have to see what we can do to keep him behind for these last couple of corners. Only 30 seconds left to go in this race roughly now. And yeah, as long as I don't lose out to him in the DRS zone, I think we should be okay. He's very, very close to us though. Only a couple of tenths separating us. It's going to be just 1 tenth by the time we get to the corner, but it's just about enough that I'm going to be able to hold on to it. And unless we have an absolute mare through one of these corners now, I would say that P2 is most likely going to be ours here. Any second now, Lando Norris is going to cross the line to take P1 and his second victory of the season, and we are going to round the final corner here, and we are just about going to hold on to take P2, and finally we are back on the podium. Yes, I am extremely happy with that performance. I am gutted that we couldn't quite get the win here, and I know that we were quite lucky to even get P2, but you know, I am just happy that we finally returned to the podium and scored some good points.
They've done it then. A spectacular victory here in Spain and a massive confidence boost going into the next race. So, Natalie, what made the difference out there today?
Well, what an amazing race today. Everywhere you looked, there were masterful overtakes, so daring, so controlled. Late on the brakes always keeps us on the edge of our seats.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everyone played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
Well, it's a solid performance there from Lando Norris, who will no doubt move further ahead in the Drivers' Championship. He was leading it before this race. He will certainly be leading it now. We pick up a very hard-fought P2, and it's actually a double podium for Mercedes, as Théo Pourchaire claims what I believe is his second podium of his career as well. Obviously got a podium on debut for Mercedes in Bahrain, and well, every time I've been on the podium, Pourchaire has been there too, so a solid performance from him to take P3 in the Spanish Grand Prix.
A good result for Lando Norris, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Let's see what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. Let's focus on driver of the day, Natalie Pinkham. Come on, who do you pick?
I think for driver of the day, I'd probably pick Lando Norris. He lived up to every inch of his reputation today, and I think he'll be going home, quite rightly, a bit proud of himself.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. There is also a strong showing from the Mercedes team today as they make their way up the standings. Been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, we have moved into P6 in the Drivers' Championship now. We're slowly making our way up that championship order, but we're going to have to start getting a few more wins, I think. You know, more podiums if we want any chance of challenging for that championship. You know, Perez has had 2 wins this season. Verstappen's had 2 wins this season. Norris has had 2. I've had 1. Albon's had 1 so far. So, yeah, I think that the next driver who should get 2 wins this season is going to be me. if I want to make myself to be a serious championship contender. Obviously, we had a bit of a dry streak at some point when it came to scoring points as well. Australia and China didn't go particularly well for us. We managed to salvage a few points in some of our weaker circuits like Baku and Imola, but now we're getting into some circuits that I'm actually quite good at. I need to be scoring some strong points at pretty much every single one of those. You know, and when I think about some of the races we've got coming up, Canada must score points, preferably score a win there. Britain must score points, must preferably get a win there as well. Austria, that's got to be a guaranteed win for me, I hope. One of my strongest circuits in the modern F1 games. Where else? Hungary, got to score good points there, probably at least a podium, I would say. France, I believe, is coming up as well, and I would say that probably that has to be maybe a podium again, that kind of thing. I'm trying to think what other circuits sort of in this stage of the season. I think those are all the ones that are coming sort of before the summer break. Oh, and Belgium, I guess, as well, but that one typically is quite mid for me, I would say. So yeah, I think that one's going to be a little bit more difficult to score at. But all of the other ones I listed, those are must score races, I would say, and must score big as well. At least top fives in all of those if we want to be anywhere near being considered to be a championship contender. This is the period of the season where it is going to really start to be sort of make or break for us, I would say. If we want to be a championship contender, we're going to have to fight really, really hard to get the best results we possibly can there. Ideally, Kevin Magnussen is going to start scoring a few more points. We've moved into P5 in the Constructors, but if we want to move up to that P3, I'm going to need K-Mag to start putting in a bit more of a shift than he's been putting in at the moment. You know, I'm going to need probably some top fives from him as well, I would say. He hasn't had one so far this season. So yeah, we're going to need some better performances from the team all round, and that's what it boils down to ultimately. Next up, I believe, is the Canadian Grand Prix. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.